Hi, my name is Corey Dothy, and I'm a key account lead for AgriPro Wheat and Syngenta. I cover the Northern Plains, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Montana, and I work with associates and retailers that sell AgriPro spring wheat and winter wheat. I'm excited to show you a few things that we have going on with our program today, and a few changes with our program, but a lot of exciting things coming up and things to look forward to if you are a grower looking at certain varieties in this spring wheat market. So I am on the commercial side of things, so I deal, like I said, with our retailers and things in marketing and things like that. But I also work very closely with our breeding side. And our breeder is Yokiko, who has been here for 4 or 5 years and just started as our head breeder about a year ago. And Yokiko brings a very fresh and interesting perspective to our program. So we're very excited to show you a few of the things that she's helped develop here today, and a few of the things that AgriPro has been known for a very long time. AgriPro has been around for 50 years and has a very deep heritage with varieties and with growers and things like that. So hopefully some of the things that we've done in the past still reign true moving forward here. And you'll see that coming through on some of our newer varieties. So a lot of exciting things happening for us as a company currently. And Yukiko has been a big part of that. So I wanted to bring her up. Another person that we just hired that's very crucial to what we do and to what we release is Jay Stanley. And Jay is our technical lead based out of Glendon, Minnesota. We're all in Glendon, boots on the ground here in the Northern Plains. He is a technical agronomist, if you will. He's kind of the middleman between commercial, like me, and Yokiko, who's our breeder. So he'll bring an agronomic perspective to a lot of the things we're doing in our plots. And he is a person that has a view of a farmer, but thinks like a breeder. Right? So he's going to be picking a lot of the materials that come forward from our program and has a good view of what farmers need in the field and helps us to release the proper varieties for your farm and your location. So we're very excited to have him on board, and likely you'll be seeing him speaking at an event like this sometime in the future. So look forward to meeting him and Yokiko at some point during these plots. So with the plots, we have 16 locations that we have breeding materials at across the Northern Plains. And the nice thing is we actually have one in Crookston, or this area, the Crookston-Fisher area, right here in your backyard. So that is awesome for you. It's another data set that you can use, and a data set that we use to determine what varieties to release here and in the area. And we really stress test these varieties pretty hard because we have every location kind of accounted for, and every environment accounted for, and given we have 16 locations across the upper Northern Plains here. So a lot of data sets, a lot of different looks at varieties. So we know how it's going to react on your farm when you choose to plant AgriPro wheat seed. With that, as far as the breeding goes, there's several goals that we have as a breeding company. And yield, protein, and standability are always going to be top. That's just the way it is. A mix of yield and protein and standability is right there as well as a very important characteristic or trait that we breed for in our program and look for when we release a variety. Something else that we look for that comes right as the second notch is the disease package. AgriPro wheat has been known over the course of time to be a very robust and stout disease package and offering, and you won't see any of our varieties come through the program unless there is a very good disease package attached to them. So that's very important to us. We feel that's just something we will not let go of, and that will remain true going forward as you see some of these other varieties. Two big things with the disease that we look for is bacterial leaf streak rating and fusarium head blight rating, or scab. Now the reason they're the most important is we have the least amount of control over them once they're in the field. So bacterial leaf streak, a fungicide isn't much help with bacterial leaf streak if that disease is prevalent in your crop. The best way to control bacterial leaf streak is by resistance within a variety. So pay attention to that as we talk about some of these varieties, is the bacterial leaf streak rating and kind of where we put it, you know, versus some of the other materials. And like I said, it likely won't make it very far through the program if it is something that we feel is somewhat weak as far as that goes. The other one is scab, which obviously is a big one. Scab we do have some control with if you have a fungicide at flowering timing. It's never 100% control, however. Miravis Ace, which is a Syngenta product, does a very nice job with head scab, but it still is nice to have some sort of resistance within your varieties for scab. So pay attention to some of those ratings and characteristics as we walk through some of the varieties here today. Those are two very important things for our program and something we pay attention to all the time and as we release these varieties. So with that, I'm just going to get into talking about some of the varieties we have here in front of us behind me today. And we kind of characterize these varieties in a couple buckets. So I call them types. We have a yielding type and a protein type, meaning the yielding variety generally will get you 4, 5, 6 more bushels, but have a point to a half a point less protein than a protein type, and it's vice versa with a protein type of a variety. And then we do have what we call a balanced variety, which mixes both pretty well. So now what I want to do is kind of consider those types as we talk about some of these varieties that we have here in front of us today. So I would like to start with some of our oldies but goodies, if you will. And we have one of those standing right here, which is SY Valda. And this one I would put in that yielding type of a category. Now SY Valda was released 5 years ago. So it's been 5 years since we've had a big yielding variety like this. But there's reasons for that. It's a very good variety and it's on a lot of acres currently. So it's one that we feel has really taken Minnesota and eastern North Dakota by storm. It's actually the #2 planted variety in the state of Minnesota as of last year. So we base a lot of decisions moving forward off of products like this, if we're looking at that high yielding type of a variety. Valda is a fairly full maturity, so it has a 7 rating for a maturity. And as far as this rating scale goes, 1 is the earliest and 9 is the fullest maturity, if you will. And I'll use that scale a lot. So 1 to 9, 1 is generally the best when we talk diseases and things like that, and 9 would be the worst. So as we talk about that, have that in your mind as to where it would fall at in that rating scale. But this one, it is a full maturity, so it heads fairly early, but it has a long green stay. And what that gives you is it matures later in the season, but it's putting bushels on later in the season as well, which is why it gets to be such a big yielder. SY Valda is, so it would be a moderate protein, that yielding category like we talked. It'll likely have a 1 to 1.5 points less protein than a protein variety, but it still holds its own. And you can manage that to a certain degree given your nitrogen and what you do from a fertilizer standpoint. It'll hold 13.5 to 14 Pro pretty easily, which is a benefit. As far as standability goes, we talked about that. It's middle of the road standability, so we call it a 5. And that's adequate, but it's not exceptional, right? So at a 5, we do a few things to manage standability. We would consider seeding rate. Here we'd recommend 1.2 to 1.5 million seeds per acre to kind of manage that, that 5 as far as standability goes, that rating. And I think that is one of the things that's held Valda back a little bit, but like I said, it's definitely adequate. And just as long as you're paying attention to it, we can manage things like that. The disease package is fairly well rounded. The bacterial leaf streak we talked about and the scab, we rate at a 3 and a 4 respectively, which is very good. We have nothing that is in that 2 category. So if you start getting that 3, that's about as good as we have to offer. So that's very exciting for a product like this. Hits a lot of environments, handles a lot of ground. Stress, it handles stress and it'll do good on your racehorse acre as well. So there's a reason it's right up there as far as planted acres and our current #1 selling variety in the program. But it is 5 years old. It was released in 2015. And another one I want to hit on just real quick so we can compare. We'll compare against Valda some, is SY Ingmar. and Ingmar was released in 2014. So that one has been out a long time too, but that characterizes a lot of things that we look for going forward in the program. So SY Ingmar is a very well-rounded variety. It's a high protein variety. So with that, you're getting high protein, excellent standability, and a very good disease package when it comes to all the foliar and rust, and also scab and bacterial leaf streak. So the reason why it's gone the way it has, and it's been around for 6 years, going on 7. So a variety doesn't last that long unless there's something there. And it's actually the #1 variety planted in the state of North Dakota still today. So Ingmar has been a big staple for us and kind of a workhorse. It's easy. It's a no-holds variety, and that characterizes a lot of things that we have moving forward within the program. So, and the main reason I bring that up is we're standing next to SY McLeod, which is an Ingmar type. And so it's a high protein line that we just released last year. So 2020 was the first time you had access to SY McLeod. Now, a couple of differences here. Well, I guess the similarities are probably the most important right out the gate. It's similar to Ingmar, and that's a good thing. So you're getting a lot of the disease characteristics, the well-rounded disease package. It's about a 4 on scab and somewhere in BLS too, so that's very good as far as a rating goes. It is a little bit earlier, so with that, there's a few things within the field, depending on the year, that can work out into your favor. Also, it's the reason we released it, the main reason, is like we talked from the beginning, is yield. So we saw a yield increase in the Valley, Minnesota, and Eastern North Dakota over Ingmar. So if you're keeping the same protein as Ingmar and getting a better yield by 1 to 2 to 3 bushels, it's definitely something to pay attention to. And that's why we released SY McLeod. We're getting on more acres, so we're learning about it. That's one thing you'll notice as we get it on a wider scale and learn more about the variety and how it reacts on your farm. We know how to treat it a little more too. It is a little taller, a little earlier than Ingmar, will yield more, and that's about it. So we're really excited for this. We got it out on a lot of acres this year, and it's only going to grow from here. And it's that economic return type of variety. I think if you've heard us speak before, we talk about economic returns a lot. And that is taking the protein premiums and kind of attaching a dollar value to it. So we can see, even though it may not yield like a Valda, on the years where protein matters, as far as a premium, it's going to make sense to plant something like McLeod. So it does very well economically on those higher premium years. And again, it's one of those that looks very good in this area and has consistently been the protein equivalent to Ingmar and higher yields. So a very exciting product to look at as you make your decisions for next year. Well, here I'm standing in front of SY Rockford, and this is, I guess, a different take for this area, but it's in the plot here, so we wanted to mention it so that you know, if you are listening in a different region, kind of what fits and what doesn't here. This is one that around Crookston maybe isn't your best choice, but as you get into western North Dakota, has really been a good variety for us. It leans towards that yielding side of the types, if you will, of spring wheats. And this was released, 3 years ago, and is starting to pick up steam out in western North Dakota and certainly Montana. Now the reason we keep it out of this area, the bacterial leaf streak rating is fairly poor. It's about a 7. And we don't want to put this here when we told you we'd take care of you when it comes to disease ratings and things like that and get the right varieties for your acre. And that's why this one we try to keep west, into western North Dakota and Montana. But where it really excels out there is on that drier environment. It has a big flag leaf, big leaves that cover the rows fast, conserving moisture, and it handles a drought, stressy type of environment very, very well. So we're having a lot of good luck with this in Montana and western North Dakota. Keeps adequate protein while being is actually the #1 yielder in Minot. So for folks out there that are listening, it's a very good choice. And like I said, handles stress very, very well. So here, maybe not the best option just due to the bacteria, but out there, has really been a good one. It is a little later maturing, as you can tell here. We'd call it probably a 6th, and it just has a nice fit for that type of an acre. With that, we'll move over here to 611, and this is another interesting one. SY 611, the first thing you'll notice, there's a CL2 on the end of the name, and that designates a clear field. So it is a variety where you can spray beyond herbicide on and use that chemistry with this wheat variety. Now generally this too is something we would keep in the West, Western North Dakota and Montana. This is one where we had a need on the East for some different chemistry, herbicides coming in. We had resistant group 1 wild oats in parts of Eastern North Dakota and Minnesota. And this was an opportunity to get something in to where we could take a look at using a beyond type of a product with a very robust spring wheat. So we bred for it in the West, we tried it in the East, and it was performing very well. So we brought it over, and it's in the state trials, and it's in all of our AgriPro trials as well. So keep on the lookout for 611 in all the trials. But a couple key characteristics, it has a Soren pedigree. So we're getting some of those characteristics from Soren, which has a good disease package and things like that, into this variety while having an option to spray beyond herbicide. The one thing about Clearfield, some people get categorized that you have to use beyond or have a Clearfield reason for planting it. That isn't the case at all. You don't have to spray beyond on 611. It's a very, very good variety by itself, and that's how we will promote it too. With that though, it will be a CSO, so it's a one-time use. You have to buy it every year, but it's something you can use as a regular variety, not spray beyond on if you don't want to. It's an option that is there. Actually out west, and we're getting some of the east data here too, but it was the number 3 yielder in our plots. And that's saying something, while keeping a decent protein level. So that's a very exciting mix of protein and yield. We talked about that yielding type and the protein type. This one's probably somewhere in the middle. It balances both pretty well. So it's something to keep an eye on when it comes to scab and bacteria. It's a very good rating there too. So 3s and 4s on those two, which works here very, very well. Shorter stature, stands pretty well. It's a 4 on standability, so not top of the page, but certainly not the bottom. It performs like we would think a Soren would, but yields more. So it's been a nice little look here. Pay attention to the yields and the trials and see what we get here at the end of the summer. But one that maybe is a custom fit here, but is looking like it could go on more acres than we originally thought. So very exciting one to pay attention to. I guess there is one more. That we had 3 releases last year, and McLeod was one of them, 611 was the other, and the third was SY Longmire. Now we don't have it in the plot, but I just want to hit on it quickly. So SY Longmire is a solid stem. Now, these are all hollow stems that we've been looking at and talking about. A solid stem is exactly what it is. It's a solid stem throughout the plant, and it's used for one reason, that's to combat wheat stem sawfly. Now, wheat stem sawfly, again, has been like a Western North Dakota, Montana type of an issue. But in the Crookston area, we've had several instances where sawflies have been an issue. So people have been looking at different ways to control sawfly and the like. So that is an option. They are bred for west further, but Longmire is half Ingmar. So again, we're getting some of those disease characteristics and things like that that allow us to bring it east into this part of the world. So if sawfly is an issue for you, and we have an option. Now the one thing with sawfly varieties, generally there is a bit of a yield drag just due to the plant is using a lot of energy to build that solid stem. Longmire, we're seeing still competitive yields. So if you're in a situation where you are having wheat tip over from sawfly, say you have a 50% stand and it's 60 bushel yield and you get 30 and Longmire gives you 55, obviously you're a lot better off planting a sawfly variety than you would, say, a high yielding variety. Just an option to be aware of, and that is available as well for the area. With that, we'd like to end on our newest variety, which is AP Murdoch. And you'll notice, I guess right away, is AP is on the front opposed to SY. So anything you see from AgriPro going forward is going to have the AP prefix to kind of match the brand. So you can pay attention to that as you see new varieties coming from AgriPro. It's going to have the AP designation. This will be available next year to growers, and AgriMAX has foundation seed in, so they'll have certified seed available. Now Murdoch is one that we've been looking forward to for a long time. I mentioned the Valda at the onset, which is our high yielding offering. It's been 5 years. Now Murdoch comes to play next year as a high yielding variety to kind of complement a Valda type product. So what you're getting is you're getting Valda yield, so high yield, a 1/10 or 2/10 better protein, so very similar. Very similar when it comes to yield and protein, but there's two big differences. Murdoch is a lot earlier, so we rate this a 4 as far as maturity, and Valda was a 7 if you recall. So it's going to finish a lot sooner in the season. Valda had that long green stay, which last year was good and bad. If you sprayed a scab spraying, it really stayed green for a long time, and it might have been the last one you were combining. This one's going to finish sooner and give you a little bit of flexibility when it comes to harvest time. And depending on the year too, earlier, later, maturing things. You want to have a nice mix because you can have different results depending on the weather that you get. The other big difference between this and Valda is standability. This we rate at a 2, with 1 being the best. 2 is about as good as we have in the program. It is as good as we have in the program. So Valda was a 5 if you recall. So it's going to have a lot of standability. It is going to be improved here with Murdoch. It's going to give you a lot of options in the field too. So when it comes to pushing a variety, when it comes to seeding rates, initially we're going to recommend 1.5 million seeds per acre, somewhere in there, but maybe it's something that we can push. If it's something where 1.6, 1.7 looks to be a little bit better, then we'll start recommending that. But we'll learn that as we get it on more acres and kind of see how it reacts to a bigger scale of ground. But like I said, it's about as exciting as it gets for us. The bacterial leaf streak and the scab are about at a 4, which is very good. So everything's kind of covered when it comes to what you're looking for in a variety. So we're extremely excited about it. I guess I'd have to mention it. We named it Murdoch. If you notice, some of our other names have had old 70s and 80s sitcom type of a naming scheme to it. But John Davies is our prior breeder, got to name this one, and Murdoch, if you know, is from the A team. And truth be told, we really feel this is an A type of a variety, so I think the name fits. And we're excited to see what the data shows this year, and we're excited for you to try it in your field. So please check out our website, agriprowheat.com. We have all the information you will need as far as tech sheets for all the varieties we've talked about, all of our data sets, and any type of information regarding our company. And as always, your best spot for information, I guess locally, is AgriMAX and the people that are here growing it here, so that they can kind of custom fit it to your area and give you the best information that they have. So with that, thank you.